town council meeting of the town of Vegreville. I'll be looking for a motion to adopt the agenda. Councillor Curtis makes the motion. Is there any additions or deletions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Next, we'll look for someone to make a motion to adopt the minutes of our last regular meeting. Councillor Warwa, thank you very much. Any errors or omissions within those minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. So next up, we are going to have CAO Leggett bring us some correspondence to us.
Thank you, Your Worship. So first item of two pieces of correspondence here. We got a letter from the Royal Canadian Legion, branch number 39 here in Vegreville, dated June 2nd, 2023. It's addressed to Dear Sir, Madam, regarding the Vegreville Materials Recovery Facility, the VMRF. Given from Mr. Kuzik, President, and he states, we are hereby applying for an exemption from fees to bring our recyclable materials, toner, cartridges, batteries, fluorescent tubes, light bulbs to the above noted town facility. The Royal Canadian Legion is a not-for-profit organization supporting veterans and offering events to the Vegreville and area citizens. We appreciate your consideration of our cause. Yours very truly, Terry Kuzik, President.
Okay, I'll be looking for a motion to receive and file. Councillor Bullock makes the motion. Any discussion? Councillor Berry.
Thank you, Your Worship. In the past, we have looked at waiving fees when it's a special project, when they've replaced all of the bulbs, all of the lights or fixtures, and for energy savings and et cetera, we have given them an exemption on fees. But this problem I see here is setting a precedent where everything would be exempt from fees. And I'm just wondering how many not-for-profit organizations would want to have similar benefits. I'm just wondering what the cost would be on something of that nature.
Okay, anybody else? Well, myself, the way I see this is a lot like what you said, a special project that some nonprofits are doing to, you know, help save money in power bills and things like that. We've made one-time agreements, but this, to offer something like this, I know a lot of nonprofits will end up with a lot of toner cartridges from all their members. And so my recommendation is that we don't approve this, that we go back, that we stay with our policy right now where we look at individual cases for what they are, and if it's a renovation that they're doing, that we can help them out. So I guess that's going to be a big no to that one, Chris.
We'll reach out to the Legion and let them know.
Okay, all those in favor, receive and file. Carried. Thank you.
Number two under me for this section is a letter dated June 8th from Ellen Dunn for Ellen's Venture Limited, addressed to the town of Vegreville. Regarding invoice ID number, this was an invoice sent to her from our enforcement department, so we've redacted that information just for privacy, but invoice dated May 31st, 2023, and regarding an enforcement order this year as well. So on behalf of Mrs. Dunn, I am writing regarding your letter, invoice dated May 31st, 2023, an enforcement order dated April 24th, 2023, one bill directed to me personally, and the fine directed to Ellen's Venture Limited. I am not sure you are aware of all the circumstances surrounding the train station located at 4922 55 Avenue, Vegreville, Alberta. Firstly, redacted for privacy, and numbered company, Alberta Numbered Company Limited, owner, operator, resident, and Ellen's Venture Limited had a lease-to-own agreement for the company to purchase the train station. This agreement was also given to the town to purchase a business license for Bing Bang Bong to operate on the land and in the building, a historic resource for the province, town, and Canada. The ads on the radio clearly state that the resident is responsible for unsightly mess, etc., and the bylaws will be enforced and fines, costs, etc. will be sent to the resident, so this fine and the costs should be directed to the resident, again redacted, and Numbered Company Alberta Limited. Secondly, I've been trying to evict this person, redacted, and all of the junk and mess since November 2022 for non-payment, amongst other things. A long list is available. Many attempts to do so, including eviction notices, 3 times in court, a police escort to assist eviction due to the nature of the crimes and illegal activity going on, recommended by the judge. I have on numerous occasions demanded eviction, so I have done everything I could to get redacted, out to clean up the mess, etc., and was afraid to venture onto the property at all under the circumstances. Moving forward, since the beginning of May 12th, both the bylaw and RCMP helped fulfill the court order to evict this company, their things, friends, etc. I have had friends cut the grass, even the part the town owns close to the road. Rake the garbage out of the bush that mostly blows in from the local business that leave their garbage open, and we are trying to spruce up the outside as well as the inside. I would like to work with the town to create a resource of heritage, both for locals and for the town to be proud of. Please help me be a part of the solution to share this heritage. I look forward to your office redirecting these costs and charges to Redacted and Numbered Company Alberta Limited. There are also charges regarding destroying a historic resource that the bylaw and RCMP can charge with. I have pictures of both the outside and inside to back up these charges if necessary. I look forward to your response, and I am willing to work with the town to move this resource productively into the future. Kind regards, Ellen Dunn for Ellen Ventures Limited.
Okay, thank you. Take a motion to receive and file a letter. Councilor Rudick makes the motion. Any discussion? Go ahead, Councilor Rowe.
I can certainly appreciate this, and I think it's been a really bad situation that she's had to be in. My only concern is similar to the last situation we were talking about, was that we have to apply the same standard. Unfortunately, we have a lot of people who get stuck with utilities, for example, because it goes to the actual owner, and I just don't know that we can do anything different than that. I just think we would be, subject to a lot of people being in that same position where they've had to swallow costs for a bad renter, and I just don't think we can open that.
Okay, anybody else? And of course, we've seen this numerous times over the history of myself being on council. People have come here and said, well, I rented the house, my renter didn't cut the lawn or let the weeds grow, you should bill them. Of course, we have no recourse to bill a resident because they're not on title. We can't chase them down or add it to the tax on their property. So, well, I feel bad for Mrs. Dunn here, but there's been a lot of landlords in this community have been stuck with the same thing for a lot of years, and for asking us to bill her renter will never ever work. I'm glad that they have got somebody out of there and that the property is not as unsightly as it was. I don't know how many other businesses are blowing onto her property there, but if that's the case, then we should take a look at that. But myself personally, there's no other recourse to enforce our bylaws unless we serve the name that's on the title. So we can't change that. So that's the way it'll have to be. So any other comments? So is everybody here in agreement that we'll leave it to the procedure that we always use? Yes. Go ahead, Councillor Barry.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, I think you've explained it quite well. The only recourse we have is to make the serving on the person that owns the property. The owner, regardless of any rent agreements they've got, is still responsible for what the renter or leaser is doing on that property. So I agree with you.
Go ahead, Councillor Rudick.
I understand her concern and echo the comments of my colleagues. I just would want to clarify that our ads and the information that we've shared with the public via the radio and our social media clarifies the onus is on the owner who is on title. Just to clarify again, she's referred to that in her letter. And I guess it doesn't hurt to remind people again that both utilities as well as these kind of fines ultimately go back to the owner of the property, because I think that can be confusing for people. And it doesn't hurt us to be able to share that information again, because it is a project that we're ramping right now in terms of enforcement as well as the information we're sharing with the public. So I think that might not hurt to clarify that point. And while I have compassion for Mrs. Dunn, I think we have to be fair to all.
Well, I did listen to the bylaw officer the day on Country 106.5, and I did not hear that we would charge the residents and not the titled owner. So I don't think we've ever put that in any social media release from here, that renters are responsible for paying fines, so.
Your worship, we never really gotten into specifics as it pertains to that. In any of our social media, we've always linked directly to a page with more information, which then directly links to the bylaw itself. But in any of our, especially with municipal enforcement kind of priorities, we've undertaken a bit of a public education campaign over the last few weeks. Most of them have been just sort of generic, general reminders to please keep their property tidy. We didn't really get into this is what happens if you don't. I suppose we could, but at no point did we say, here's who's going to get charged if you don't, because we never really specified that in the ads.
Well, I know myself, I listened to that interview with municipal enforcement, and there was no mention that they were going to be charging renters or leases, so go ahead.
Not to get into the weeds, but I think what you're explaining between the two of you is the disconnect sometimes that the public has with what we decide here. So that while it might be obvious to us, and putting a link to the bylaw might be a way for people to clarify, to assume that all people do that is, we all know that that doesn't happen. I mean, I don't know how many times I go for a walk and I get stopped by somebody who says something to me that certainly is outside of my scope of responsibility. So while I wouldn't say that we need to be down to the letter explaining everything to people, it doesn't hurt when we're sharing information to make it as generic in some senses as our esteemed colleague Jameson does, but also make sure that people understand that when you leave space there, people will fill it in with their own information. And in this case, they might assume that it is the renter. So it doesn't hurt to be clear with people. They'll still fill in the blanks, but.
Okay, well, maybe she mistook resident for renter. I don't know, but I listened to that, and she referred in this letter that she took it from the interview on the radio that it was the renter, not the resident. Okay, so we have a motion to receive and file. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Next up, Director Lefebvre.
Thank you, Your Worship. The topic is a proposed crosswalk installation. The proposal is to approve the proposed crosswalk installation at 44A Street and 57A Avenue. The background: at the April 18th, 2023 Legislative Committee meeting, Council reviewed correspondence from two residents requesting a crosswalk be installed on 44A Street and 57A Avenue. Council directed IP&D to contact the two residents that would be impacted by the crosswalk installation and prepare cost options. Letters were sent to the owners of 5721 44A Street and 5710 44A Street, informing them of the proposal and instructing them to provide their feedback by May 11th, 2023. The IP&D department did not receive any feedback. At the June 6, 2023 Legislative Committee meeting, Council was presented with the information requested and stated their preference for the cost option that included an 8-meter section of concrete para-ramp to be installed in the corner of 5710 44A Street, and that the proposed crosswalk be installed this year. The financial implications are the concrete ramp at $2,560, crosswalk signs $325, the sign installation is $130, and the crosswalk painting at $170 for a total of $3,185. The recommendation is being made that Town Council approve the installation of a crosswalk, including the concrete para-ramp at 44A Street and 57A Avenue in the amount of $3,185.
Are we doing some of this work in-house?
We will do all the work except for the installation of the para-ramp.
Okay, looking for a motion for the recommendation. Councillor Rudick makes the motion. Any comments? Go ahead, Councillor Barry. First, then we'll come back to you.
Thank you, Your Worship. I think that the residents brought this forward to us as a safety item. So I think that it's wise for us to move forward and do it this year rather than wait until after the next budget period. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Rudy?
I appreciate these residents bringing it forward to our attention, and I would encourage when we have this project completed to include the families. It would be great to be able to have these youngsters that are using that crosswalk to get that connection to what we do here. Because the reason why we do all this is to ensure that we have improved safety and improve the lives of our residents. And no different than some of the crosswalks that we've installed on 16A over the years, we've made sure to circle back and talk to some of those young families. So if we're able to do that, I think that would be effort well spent.
Okay, I find it kind of funny that we didn't get any comments back from the letters. To lose a parking spot in front of your house would be a concern of mine if I was my residence. I would imagine maybe we'll hear more once the project starts and the yellow paint goes down.
Could be the correspondence was sent to the same addresses that confirmed where they received their tax notices, so.
Okay, all those in favor of the recommendation? Gary, thank you very much. Next up, Director Saskew.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have an RCD here for the topic of new Town of Vegreville Library Board members. The proposal is to appoint new board members to the Town of Vegreville Library Board. The members of the Town of Vegreville Library Board have approved the applications of Laura Wenzel and Trace Borzarth to serve on the Library Board. They are recommending that Laura and Trace be appointed to the Town of Vegreville Library Board to serve a term of 3 years, starting June 21st, 2023, with the possibility of an extension for an additional 3-year term. With the appointment of Laura and Trace to the board, there will be one position remaining to bring the board to full complement. Communication will be that a letter will be drafted to the Town of Vegreville Library Board, Laura, Trace, acknowledging their appointments to the board. Recommendation is that Town Council approve the appointments of Laura and Trace to the Town of Vegreville Library Board, each for a 3-year term starting June 21st, 2023, with the possibility of extensions for an additional 3 years each.
Okay, thank you. Looking for a motion for the recommendation. Okay. Okay, Councillor Lemko makes the motion. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll make that motion, Your Worship.
Okay. Any discussion? Well, like every other time that we have somebody appointed to new board, I'd like to thank them for putting their name out there and making a contribution to our community. It's always nice to see the people willing to step up. All those in favor of the recommendation? Carried. I think you got a few here, Director Saskew, so you can just keep rolling.
Okay, so the first here is a request for council decision regarding the land sale policy and procedure. The proposal is to approve the updates to the land sale policy and procedure. So the background is the town-owned land policy and procedure are up for review as per the CAO's foundational documents listing. Minor changes have been made to the policy to update titles from town manager to CAO, and then the following changes have been made to the procedure, which we went over at the last legislative meeting. The financial implication is that there is no financial implication. Each sale will be brought forth to council individually. So by adopting this policy, we're not adding any additional commitments to the town other than the RCDs that are following after the fact. The communication is the Internal Economic Development Committee has hosted an engagement session with local realtors to obtain their input on this policy procedure, and senior management will be notified of the changes and each parcel for sale will be brought forth to council with a separate RCD, which is set to come today. Town Council's recommendation is that the Town Council approve the land sale policy and procedure as presented.
Great, thank you. Need a motion? Councillor Curtis makes the motion. Any comments, discussion? I know we went through the changes to the policy at our last ledge meeting. And okay, seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. Thank you.
Okay, so the next one I have here is the request for council decision to establish pricing and marketing for Prosperity Industrial Parks. So the background is the town of Vegreville is in the process of developing industrial lots in Prosperity Industrial Park. The lot pricing of $50,000 per acre was set by council in October 2022. With the updates in the land sale policy and procedure, council must set parameters on how the land will be marketed for sale. The land sale price was based on recent appraisals in fall 2022 and does not need to be updated. So we'll keep that at $50,000 per acre. And then the Community Engagement and Economic Development Department will internally market these parcels of land. The land will not be listed with realtors, including mirror listings. If a realtor approaches the town with an offer on a parcel, they will be compensated a standard commission rate. According to a local realtor, these rates are currently 7% on the first $100,000 of a sale and then 3% on the balance. The financial implication, so upon completion of Prosperity Industrial Park, the initial lot price will be $50,000 per acre. The parcels will be internally marketed by our Community Engagement and Economic Development Department using budgeted funds for advertising. Communication is that the approved pricing will be built into the town's marketing plan and will be provided to local realtors. And the recommendation is that administration recommends council to approve the pricing and marketing plan for Prosperity Industrial Park at $50,000 per acre, marketed internally by our Community Engagement and Economic Development Department.
Okay, take a motion for, Councillor Bullock makes the motion. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried.
So I'm going to continue on. This is a request for council decision. So this is going back to 75th Business Street Park, 75th Street Business Park. So the background is nearly identical to Prosperity Industrial Park. We set the lot pricing at $50,000 per acre based on assessments that we had in October of 2022. There is no changes that needs to be made to the cost of those lots marketed for sale at this time. And we will also internally market the lots with the Community Engagement and Economic Development Department. So financial implications, same as Prosperity. Upon completion, the lots will be marketed at $50,000 per acre. These lots are serviced and ready to go at this point in time, and they will be internally marketed by Community Engagement and Economic Development Department using budgeted funds. So communication will be updated into our marketing plan and provided to local realtors, and recommendation is that council approve the pricing and marketing plan for 75th Street Business Park lots, $50,000 per acre, marketed by our internal Community Engagement and Economic Development Department.
Thank you. Take a motion for the recommendation. Councillor Lemko makes the motion. Any discussion? Go ahead, Councillor Ruby.
I just had a quick question about the wording of this document, talking about developing the lots and upon completion. Are they not ready for sale?
They are ready for sale,
Okay.
yes.
Thank you.
These ones are ready to go.
Okay, all those in favor? Carried. Let's go to Foxview.
Foxview. So this is to establish marketing for Foxview Estates. So as we had noted, we have set the lot prices for Foxview already, and we are looking at seeking the assistance of real estate professionals to increase lot sales, to decrease inventory, and allow for the remaining phases to commence. The town will pay a listing realtor $100 plus GST and up to an additional $100 plus GST to a secondary realtor for a mere MLS listing. So that's $200 per lot because we have two brokerages in town. The posting realtor will be responsible to post recent photos of the lot, as well as post their firm's brokerage for sale sign on each of these properties. Sales completed from a realtor will be subject to a 7% commission on the first $100,000 of sale and 3% commission thereafter, plus GST where applicable. So financial implication, the approximate cost per lot sale based on the 7% commission is noted here. So the listing prices are set at 7% rate, shows what your commission and what your net proceeds would be. And then I do have a note here saying that after one additional lot sale, there will be a 10% increase to the remaining lot list prices as per our triggers every 2 lot sales. So the communication is the approved structure for listing and commission payouts will be provided to the local realtors. And the recommendation is that administration recommends council approve the listing practices and commission rates for Foxview subdivision.
Thank you. Take a motion for the recommendation. Councillor Curtis. Any discussion? All those in favor? Carried.
Okay, so this is my last one tonight. This is to establish a property tax incentive for tax rolls 215800, 222200, 221600, and 222000. So the background is a property tax incentive for these tax rolls has been proposed to town council to encourage revitalization and renovations of the existing properties. The proposed property tax incentive will span 1.5 years from purchase date or until the start of operations, whichever is sooner. The information that the town has on the parcels is that the possession date was April 10th, 2023. This would result in the following incentives on the 2023 taxes payable from April 10th to December 31st, 2023, and at the current assessed values. So note, these have not been adjusted by our assessor for any actual sales costs. So if the property was bought for more or less than the assessment, they haven't adjusted this yet. We haven't been able to get information from land titles or from the purchasers at this point in time. So this is where the incentive sits right now. If there's changes, as a 3051 change from the assessor, then the incentive would change in dollar value. So currently $95,835 based on 2023 taxes, prorated for, so January 1 to April 10 is actually 100 days. So this is 265 out of 365 days would be the 2023 assessment or incentive. So the financial implication, the town of Vegreville will provide a tax incentive in accordance with council direction. The incentive will be adjusted for any valuation changes from the assessor processed as a result of receiving updated sales prices from land titles. So that's something that we're still waiting on. There is currently $37,000 budgeted for property tax incentives, which may be claimed by other improvements under the town's property tax incentive subsidy program, which we advertise on our website. Up to $95,835 may need to be transferred from general reserve in 2023 to cover this unbudgeted property tax incentive. The incentives for 2024 will be budgeted accordingly based on updated assessed values and what we know is happening with the building as they are improving operations. So communication, senior management will be informed and the approved incentive will be communicated with the property owners. And recommendation is that town council approve a property tax incentive for these tax rolls for a maximum of 1.5 years from the possession date or start of operations, whichever sooner, and that further that town council approve the incentive for a value up to $95,835 in 2023, adjusted for any valuation changes from the assessor once land titles are processed to come out of general reserves.
Okay, thank you. Looking for a motion to support this recommendation. Councillor Bullock makes the motion. Any comments? So Director Saskew, this was purchased and part of the purchase price would have been a credit for the taxes that were owed up to that date.
That is correct.
So the new owner has been notified that they are still responsible for those taxes that were credited in the sale. We will be collecting those.
Yes, and we have been in correspondence with them. Recently, I've had issues reaching out via email. Seems like an email has changed, so I will phone again tomorrow and get contact in an updated email and give them updated information.
Okay. Any other comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next up, Bryce Johnston.
Thank you, Your Worship. Tonight we have a request for council decision with the topic being to accept an offer made to purchase the commercial lot known as 5117 52 Ave, Vegreville, Alberta. The proposal is to approve the commercial purchase contract. The background is that the town acquired the commercial property known as 5117 52 Ave, Vegreville, Alberta on or around December 15th, 2021 due to tax arrears owing. The assessed value of the property with roll number 153800 is set at $33,590. The financial implication of this RCD is the offer to purchase the property made on June 6, 2023 is for $20,000. There are no other conditions on the sale. To date, there has been $3,548 of accumulated costs, which the town stands to recoup, in addition to the real estate and closing costs incurred on the land sale transaction. The remainder of the proceeds will be owed to the former landowners. The communication would be to notify Century 21 Alberta of the decision made. Our recommendation is that administration recommends council approve the offer to purchase the lot known as 5117 52 Ave, Vegreville, for the sum of $20,000.
Thank you. Need a motion for the recommendation? I can't make it, but okay. So everybody wants to get involved here tonight, or? Okay. I know there's a lot of motions, but, and I'm not allowed to make one, so everybody realizes that, right? So Councillor Lemko will be making a motion. Any discussion?
Question.
Go ahead, Councillor Warma.
Just double checking, once I thought we had talked about that we weren't able to go below assessed value. Is that?
Well, what we're not allowed to go below is fair market value.
Okay,
And now we have a different approach to what fair market value is.
so we don't have any additional costs that come to us for any other kinds of, there's no additional hoops, I guess, or no additional requirements for advertising or anything that come with it then, right?
Correct, that's my understanding.
Okay.
Anybody else? Go ahead, Councillor Barry.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, looking at this, it costs the town monies to look after these properties that are taken over by tax. And the longer you delay, the less the actual owner really gets, because more of the money is gobbled up in cost to the town. So I personally feel that we should be selling any one of these lots that are taken over this way at any point in time we can. So I support this sale.
Councillor Bullock. Oh,
Councillor Barry said it.
okay. So, in our discussions with some local realtors and stuff, and we're looking at the assessed value on some of these properties, and then when we look at, say, similar properties or even properties that may be more desirable are selling for half the price that, well, right now. So we have that to back up and research and what the latest sale prices are on some pieces of property in town. And this is our big push to move forward with some of these that are setting in that limbo category right now. If we're waiting to get assessed value, when the MGA clearly states fair market value, and if we have comparables, say 3 or 4 other comparables that we can pull from and say, this is what fair market value is today. So this is part of our strategy to move some of these properties right now, and this is where it starts, so.
Agreed.
Okay, all those in favor? Carry. It'd be nice to see a new business be built there. Mr. Nope, you only had one, Bryce, all right. Krista, CAO Leggett, you're up next.
Thank you, Your Worship. My topic here for this one is the declaration of a civic holiday. Proposal is to declare that holiday August 7th, 2023 as such a civic holiday in Vegreville. Background is Section 56 of the Municipal Government Act allows the council to declare up to 2 days in a year as civic holidays. The minimum length of a civic holiday is a half day. The August long weekend is a public holiday, not a statutory holiday. Therefore, it requires council to declare the first Monday in August as a civic holiday annually. The financial costs of declaring August 7th, 2023 a civic holiday are budgeted for annually and already accounted for. Communication strategy is to notification of the civic holiday will be posted on both the town's website and social media pages. And the recommendation is that town council declare August 7th, 2023 a civic holiday in the town of Vegreville.
Thank you. For a motion for the recommendation, Councillor Barry. Any comments?
I have a question, sorry.
Go right ahead.
And just clarifying, does that mean we have to, like, this doesn't stand from year to year, so every year we have to do it? Is that correct?
I believe so, Councillor. I'd defer to our legislative manager for that. Yeah.
And again, I don't really have any issue with that. It's just if we do have only the two, my cautionary is always, once you've declared something once, it's sort of an expectation that that becomes a bit of an annual, which isn't something I have an issue with, but I just wondered if it had to be done, Ken. Okay, thank you.
And this only deals with our organization. We're not forcing anybody, any other business to force a half-a-day holiday.
Yeah, that's correct.
So, we can only declare a half-a-day holiday, but we can declare up to 2 days. So we got 3 more opportunities, is what you're telling me? Okay. We have a motion. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. You still have another one here.
Thank you, Your Worship. So this one, the topic here is arena dressing room alterations, and the proposal is to alter dressing rooms 3 and 4 at the Wally Fadoon Arena to better meet the criteria of the use agreement with the Vegreville Vipers. Background on this item is beginning in 2022, representatives from the Vegreville Vipers approached the town requesting that additional space be provided or that alterations be made to the arena building to better accommodate the team's use of the facility. Several ideas were discussed over many months, including a full-scale expansion to the building and/or additions to the building. These all proved to be too costly for the town to undertake. Following collaborative discussions between the team coach and representatives from the town, a plan was conceived that would see dressing rooms 3 and 4 slightly altered, resulting in additional space for the team during their usage times. This would involve removal of a concrete block partition wall, the hanging of a retractable overhead door, relocating a lockable door between the rooms, installation of additional seating, and minor electrical work. None of the work is structural in nature, and all proposed work would be removable or reversible if need be in the future. The resulting alterations would also maintain the town's ability to have 2 separate dressing rooms for other town-related events. Financial implications. The town received 2 quotes of $10,350 and $10,500 for the work. One of the quotes was from Buckskin Landscaping Services, which is affiliated with the Vipers franchise. Further negotiations between Buckskin and the town have resulted in a commitment from the firm to split the cost 50-50 with the town, as the work will benefit both the franchise and the town. Using Buckskin's quote of $10,500 and the agreed to split would result in a total cost to the town of $5,250. Administration feels this is excellent value for money. Communication strategy. No communication strategy is needed for this endeavor. The dressing rooms are essentially unoccupied during the off-season at this time, and the resulting work will not impact their usage in any material way that we can foresee. So the recommendation is that council approve up to $5,250 to partner with Buckskin Landscaping Services for the alteration to dressing rooms 3 and 4 at the Wally Fadoon Arena.
Okay, looking for a motion for the recommendation. Councilor Rudick makes the motion. Any discussion? Go right ahead.
I just have a quick question. The communication strategy says that this won't impact the usage for others. Are there other user groups that will be during the time when the arena is usually used? Will they be able to use it? I mean, it does say in here that it's available for use for others. Of course, the one room is generally used for the one hockey team. I'm just curious how the other user groups will be impacted.
Yeah, thanks, Councilor Rick. Our understanding of it is that during those Viper games, there's no other user groups that are using the arena at that time, so there's no additional dressing rooms needed, and the opposing team uses an entirely different space. So what we meant by that was, that once they're in and they open up that door to be able to have the larger dressing room, once they leave, that door can easily be closed, and then the other groups for any other date, there's no impact. There's still 2 separate dressing rooms.
So just so everybody knows that their room is locked all the time. It's full time. And now the lock will now be on the inside the shared washrooms. The hallway door will be a plug. And I would like to add one thing to this agreement, that the materials at the end, if we move on to something else or they move on, that those materials become town property. And to make sure that we're storing those doors, we know how they just go back on hinges, and that we need to know, 3 years down the road, that we can put everything right back the way it was, and just who has ownership of the roll-up door.
Yeah, if council's comfortable putting that into the motion, your worship, we're totally okay with that too.
Okay, everybody's good? It's a very simple plan compared to what we were looking at before. It adds a few extra stalls for them for dressing, and really on the other side, what they lose really would, well, be nothing, because when the roll-up door is open, they can go, because they'll still have access to the washroom no matter what, so. Okay, all those in favor? Carried, thank you. Okay, so next up is council reports. And we're gonna start with Counselor Bullock, because people tell me they watch, and why do I always make Counselor Bullock go last? So I'm like, I better stop doing that.
Okay, on May 30th, our economic development, oops. Thank you. On May 30th, our economic development meeting. June 1st, Chamber of Commerce Board meeting. As well, June 6th, Legislative Committee meeting. June 8th, some of our colleagues and everybody met down at the Egg with the Global Leaders Delegation. So that was interesting to meet people from different areas of the world and what they thought of Vegreville and how excited they were to pick up the Pessinka. So, June 11th, attended Legion Decoration Day, and it was my first time for attending Decoration Day. And it comes in before Remembrance Day years ago, back into the 1860s, in a battle that happened between the U.S. and Canada. So it's really interesting to see, if you were at Decoration Day, of how many flags are set out in the cemetery. There's over 170 veterans in our cemetery. So that just kind of puts it in perspective of how many people made sacrifices from this area in World War I and II. And it's just a very important day, and be happy to be part of that again. And tonight's town council meeting.
Thank you, and thank you for presiding over that for me. I appreciate that, and I'm glad that you picked up a little bit of knowledge and history on that, because, and there's veterans from the Creamore that are recognized as well. Okay, that said, we're going back to ladies first and second, or second and third now, so, Councilor Warwa.
Well, mine's super simple, because unfortunately I only had the legislative meeting on the 6th and the council meeting. And all the rest of my meetings are this week. Yay.
And that's because your job took you away from town for a while.
Yeah, I spent a week in Ottawa, and they unfortunately were experiencing the weather quality that we did here. Smoke rolled in really bad Tuesday, Wednesday. It was quite bad, really, for anybody that had any breathing issues. So, but I am back.
Well, I did watch a little bit from the House of Commons during that week, and it was pretty thick in there, too, with some of the answers from the government.
Yes, certainly. We were hoping the air clears eventually in the building there.
We won't get into that. Councilor Rudy.
Well, on that note, I came back from leave on June 1st and had a meeting right away. So it was the MD Minburn Foundation, continues to do research about how to phase in new construction or proposal for how to house seniors. I'll just a reminder, I'll let the chair go deeper into detail, but it is a very old structure held together with love, and the quality that we're able to offer there is high, but we don't have enough space or modern facilities to be able to build to the future. And as we all know, the great tide is coming, and we need to be able to talk about how to house seniors in a way that is meeting the mandate that is provincially written into law in Alberta, which is the lodge system, being able to provide affordable housing for seniors in a way that meets local demand, but also have some opportunities. So we've been looking at ways that we can also make money in a way that's feasible and sustainable, as well as meeting the mandate. So very good discussion, and I'm extremely pleased with our consultant that's been working with us, and look forward to being able to present to all of the councils once we get to that point, which actually will be coming sooner than you think. So you can start imagining where we might all be living soon, because we're going to be bringing that forward. Not all of us, but some of us will be there soon. And then legislative committee meeting on June 6th and tonight's council meeting. And I want to just also pass on a thank you and a congratulations to all of those that are pushing forward all the activity that's happening locally. I've been hearing about it outside of the community, and Vegreville's getting a good reputation for being active and vital. So really happy to see that.
So this new term, "Gray Tide," is coming. That's
That would be a technical term, Your Worship. That would be the baby boomers moving into the next stage of life and being able to meet that need in a way that's both modern as well as responsible. So some of the decisions in the past, and the Alberta model is different than other provinces, but we're actually, in terms of providing affordable housing in a way that's meaningful in Alberta, we're way behind what is expected in terms of percentage, and that's not related to the lodge specifically, but in general, affordable housing, which means meeting that threshold of spending 30% of your income on housing. In Alberta, up to this point, it hasn't necessarily been a concern, but it's become very obvious in the last 5 years in particular that we're far below the national average, and it's going to be increasingly difficult for those on fixed incomes, namely those that would be accessing housing like that's provided by MD Minburn Foundation. So we've been working very hard on the basis of some of the great work that the previous board has done and built on the studies that they did previously, and working to the future, trying to figure out how we capitalize on the CMHC funding that's available. A new provincial government is in place, and they're going to be wanting to make decisions, and how we can bring that forward to the community in a way that's responsible and continue to be a hub for the region.
excellent. Councilor Curtis.
Thank you very much. I'll start on May 27th. I was able to give speech to the graduating class at the Composite High School. I had to follow Councillor Rava's speech, so mine was probably not as well received as hers because she's pretty good at it. Lots of very personal notes in there, but I tried my best. I think it went over pretty well. So lots of graduates too. I couldn't believe it. There was so many. So congratulations to all them. And again, thanks for the invite. May 30th, we had the ECDEV meeting, which was a very good brainstorming meeting. We tried to put together a 5-year type plan, but goals over those, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 5. So I think we're going to put that all together and see what's viable and what goals we all think are prominent, and how to move forward with that. June 8th had the Duke of Edinburgh delegation. Again, it was very good to see people like Councillor Bullock said from all over the world down there checking out Vegreville, and I know they went to Innotech for a tour too, so I hope that went well. I know there was some people in the delegation that had some background in the hemp world, and I'm sure they were excited to see that. And then we had tonight's council meeting.
Thank you, and thank you for addressing the grad class at the comp. I appreciate you taking it on for me. From what I've heard, you were second best compared to...
That's what I go for.
No, thank you very much, and I appreciate you doing that. Councilor Lemko, you could be up next.
Thank you, Your Worship. May 29th, I attended the Alberta Association of Immigration Services Agencies Zoom call. I do that every 2 weeks, and that's the Ukrainian file. And some updates on we get all the updates from all the agencies that are involved with working with Ukrainians, and the most recent was they're doing the mapping once again of where the Ukrainian newcomers projects has settled those folks. If you remember last time, Edmonton, Calgary, Red Deer, Lethbridge, and Medicine Hat, but we were one of the highest rural areas for Ukrainian settlement other than cities. So it's showing that our committee has done a good job at helping those settle. Our committee's changed a bit now that we're not reaching out to those Ukrainians that are still in Ukraine or Poland or Europe. We're trying to now support those that have already arrived and that are needing assistance out of the city. We're working with some the Catholic Society out of Calgary right now, and possibly trying to move a family out of Calgary into to Vegreville who are struggling in the city. So And now they're doing an environmental scan, another one. So when they first arrived, they did an environmental scan on the challenges that face those Ukrainians as they arrived, like, with driver's licenses and just getting their healthcare numbers and all those challenges. So now we're doing another environmental scan to see the challenges that are facing them now that they've got their driver's license and all that, and lots of it is jobs. The language is huge. The language barrier is huge. They're finding that once they get assessed by the assessing agencies and they give them that number, and then they book them into education, but to get into a school that's teaching English, the waiting list is huge, and end of August is where they're projecting those that they've already assessed to even get started. So the challenges they're facing are huge. In fact, the family we're trying to help right now doesn't speak any English or very little, and they're in Calgary trying to find work, running out of money, that kind of stuff. So it's a huge challenge for them, and we want to be there to help them. So June 1st, I attended the MD of Minburn committee meeting, and I'll echo what Tanine said. But I would like to address that there's 6 municipal elected officials sitting on this board. 2 from Vegreville, 2 from the county of Minburn, 1 from Innisfree, and 1 from Manville. And we're assigned the task of trying to come up with something that makes a lot of sense for the lodge in Vegreville. It's like in 1965, built with an addition in 2000 or so. And now we're seeing the numbers that our consultants pushing us to us, and the need for more housing for these baby boomers, me included, is going to be something we need to do now versus wait till it's too late. And so the consultant gives us so much information to digest regarding how many units do we want, the cost associated, and it goes on and on at every meeting. And we're down to the point now where you're going to see a document come out in probably close to the end of the month here. That's going to be what we finally come up with for what a lodge will look like in Vegreville and the cost associated with that. Mind you, it has to go through all the approval stages and the grant approvals and all that, and something that's palatable for us as a community, county, and the 2 other villages, towns that are associated with us. So I'm excited about all the work that's been done, and waiting for that end of the month so that our consultant can come and present to all parties included to see what that looks like at the end of the day. On the 6th is the Ledge meeting. On the 8th, I attended the Duke of Edinburgh leaders photo shoot at the Sanka Park. It's interesting to see the amount of people, these folks that were there, but the amount of pictures they took of our egg and holding it up and taking angle shots and all that. And I made a comment that, can you imagine the amount of social media coverage those people, when they post their pictures to their families and all that, and they're from Fiji, they're from all over the world, which that kind of stuff is why 80,000 people show up a year to our aid, because they just want to see it. It's a huge Marvel piece. And tonight's council meeting, Your Worship.
Thank you very much. Councillor Barry.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll go back to May 30th. That was the start of the Rural Healthcare Week, and so I'll just narrow it down. The Attraction and Retention Committee, we got together, and the Dairy Queen had given us some coupons, made a deal with them. So we went around to all of the various establishments with our healthcare workers and provided them with a token of our appreciation for their service in town, and give them a coupon to go and get a dilly bar. And we took pictures, and we posted those pictures. And I was actually quite surprised to find out that we have over 600 healthcare providers in our town. And I'd just like to say once again, kudos for your service. And it was enjoyable to go around to each of the establishments and meet a few people there and get some pictures. On the 6th Ledge meeting, on the 8th, I was also at the photo op with the global leaders. And yes, I was impressed by how eager they were to pick up the Pasanka. And it was very interesting to talk with a number of them. They took photos of the egg, but they also took photos of the information that was out front as to how the egg was put together, what it meant, what the designs were, and we're very interested in that. And you know, it doesn't matter what, you always meet somebody that's another fisheries biologist. It kind of surprised me when we got talking, but yep, they're all over the world. On June the 12th, I met with CAO Leggett to do some workshop planning for this Wednesday and in tonight's regular meeting. And I just want to say that I also did go to the Declaration Day on Sunday, but I went more as myself. So Deputy Mayor did a great job of representing council in the town. I go there usually because I have 4 generations of relatives that fought in the various wars. They're not in this cemetery, but if I was to try and go to those cemeteries to pay my respects to them on that day, I'd be in half a dozen different cities. So it is very touching to me to see what the Legion actually does in commemorating and remembering and putting up flags at each of the grave sites. I think it's a wonderful thing that they do in this area. And that's my report. Thank you.
Thank you. And I've done Decoration Day many times, and I know a lot of Legions don't take it on anymore, but the fact that they keep that tradition going here in town, plus outlying communities and outlying cemeteries that they take on, and they really need to be commended for that. So, okay, so on May the 24th, I was part of the Chamber of Commerce golf tournament, and there was a few town employees, and we got networking pretty good with everybody out there, and supported the chamber, and it was a lot of fun. On May 29th, CAO Leggett, Jameson, and myself met with some local realtors, and just had an engagement session with them about, you know, how we should move some lots, at what point should we stand back and just let them take it on, and the communication breakdowns that we might be having and stuff. And it worked out well. It came into our new policy tonight, so it was good. On the 30th, our internal economic development committee, which again, we were setting out goals for the next 5 years, like Councillor Curtis said, and there was a lot of very good input there, and I think that everything that we talked about is very achievable, so I can hardly wait, you know, to get to the first set of goals and get those achieved, because once you set some goals, you gotta keep moving towards them. On May the 31st, I did an interview with Country 106, and I was luckily the Councillor Rudick was able to come with me, and we talked about why we're not making the Pride Committee asked every year that we're making it an annual thing for the parade. And then we talked about the credit card, paying taxes, and the fact that Councillor Rudick was back to work a day after the election, and it went very well, I think. So thank you for helping me out that day. On the 6th, we had the Ledge meeting. On the 8th, I had an interview with a group out of the U of A that are putting a documentary together on the 50 years of the Pasanka Festival, and it was very well. The guy was, of course, he studied it. He knew a lot more about the process of building the egg than I actually knew. And the only bad thing about his interviews for the documentary was that Gordon Miller wasn't available, and Gordon Miller was a strong advocate and got this project off the ground. Gordon's in the hospital. He's not doing very well, so I'd like to pass on my best wishes to Gordon there. And then we had the Duke of Edinburgh Global Leaders Delegation. I thank everybody for showing up for the picture. And then we went to Alberta Innovates, and I don't think they knew exactly what they were going to be looking at, because once they get in and start feeling what actually took place there, many of them commented we should have had the whole day here, because they had to take off right away. And I want to thank Sandra and Lane for the support over there. And the conversation didn't take long to get going about what is right and what is wrong, and what level of government money should be put in to developing new technologies. And this is what they're doing. They're collecting information to bring back and put together best practices for Commonwealth countries. And the fact that the night before they had a long conversation at what point would government funding in research and development be worthy of taxpayers' dollars, because there's this, from the technology at the beginning, there's this one big valley of death, they call it. And that's one thing that Alberta Innovates and the CAO was there, and a lot of scientists. And when he broke the model down for them, that it's a cost recovery model, the way the government of Alberta works on this. So there was a lot of discussion in the hallways afterwards, and they couldn't do a tour of the facility. One of the participants, she was heavy into hemp, and she was not leaving there. She figured out the most research in the world's ever been done in hemp is there, so she headed off. She didn't even go to the Ukrainian village. Sandra picked her up later and took her back. She wanted to see what was going on there. And it was well received by all the delegates. And the many comments were, we should have been spent the whole day here. So, but that was their loss, not ours. So, but it was nice to have them there. It really was. You know, I know that we left a very lasting impression on them, and it was nice to get into the summer conversation. And I'll tell you one conversation I had with a guy from Poland, and we started talking, you know, immigration and not recognizing people's credentials when they arrive. Well, in Europe, they have a standard. And if you're in medical or engineering, within 2 weeks, where you studied and what your test results there, they now become applicable in any country in Europe within 2 weeks. I mean, so if there's a template out there of how we can recognize other people's from other countries, you know, it just doesn't make sense why the government of Canada can't figure this out. So I, myself personally, I am going to try to push that along, because there's a template already working in the world with a lot more people in Europe than we're ever going to have here. And if they can figure it out and have somebody's approved within 2 weeks, and here we got people being janitors for 6 years to prove that they're actually an engineer, just doesn't make any sense to me. So, but I will pass that on to our MP, and hopefully she can take that to the House of Commons for us.
Well, her leader already proposed it, so it's a good idea.
Oh, there's one for your team.
Yeah, there's one for our team.
Excellent. And then on June the 8th, I attended John Espatook Water Commission meeting. Our meetings have now moved from Chipman, which they've been there since the beginning of time, and we've changed managers. And I would like to thank Pat Tompkin for all the years she's put in that commission. And she now is a consultant because of her wealth of knowledge. And our meetings are now held in Bruderheim. So the mayor here is going to drive even further. And then tonight's council meeting. So I want to thank you all for what you do every day. And hopefully everybody's going to have a good summer coming up. Is there any other business of council? We have no closed session items for tonight. So I will adjourn the meeting at 8:05.